'cause here's the biz.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is What's the Biz 559. I'm Jay Graham, entrepreneur, the best in the universe.
Yes, you are. And I'm life transformation coach Darnell Rivera. Welcome to Monday Morning Empower Huddle. So we have been talking about leadership, as you know, and we've been really delving into that world. So just to recap, last Monday we discussed as a leader how to inspire and empower. And if you haven't had the chance to listen to that, please go to our YouTube channel and make sure you hear that one. The Monday before that, we discussed the value of a great leader. And if you haven't heard that one, please go to our YouTube channel and take a listen to that one. So today we wanted to talk about the impact of bad leadership. We really wanted to dive in a little bit about the complexities and the challenges. So we want to thank you for joining us. And you know, it's our intention to hopefully inspire you if you're experiencing bad leadership maybe in your world. I know we talk about small businesses, big businesses. We talk about entrepreneurship. If you're building a business, you know, one of the beautiful things about companies who really thrive is great leadership. So we just kind of wanted to highlight the temperaments of a bad leadership and share that with you. So I hope you listen in. We're going to dive into the dark side of management and just unravel the consequences of being a bad leader, not just in your business, but also maybe in your world, maybe in your family, in your community. We just kind of wanted to share and inspire you and hope and cause you to be better than you know yourself to be in leadership. So we hope that you're really inspired today.
All right, so today we're going to talk about bad leadership. Things to look for. One of the big things is a lack of vision. Where there's no vision, people perish.
Right on. That's
right?
true.
Right.
That's true.
Yes, yeah. Leadership is everything. Vision is everything, I should say. Yeah. You know, vision is everything. Without the vision, you know, that's your blueprint of your business and where you're going. And without that, you have nothing. You have nothing.
Right. No direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Another thing is lack of planning, your roadmap. You know, this is the roadmap to get you where you're going to go. You can have the vision all you want, but without writing it down, what do they say? What's the saying? Like it's
you don't have an action plan in the sense.
Yeah, you don't have an action plan.
Yeah.
And so you definitely need an action plan to get you where you want to go, or else you're just daydreaming, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
I like what you said, because the roadmap is the thing that leads us to our future, and writing that plan out is,
Right.
Sure.
Poor communication and listening skills, that's huge. You know, bad leaders tend to be poor communicators, either not providing enough information. Sometimes I have that problem, you know, but you know, sometimes.
But you're working on it.
Yeah, working on it. But that's the thing of it, is recognizing it. You got to recognize it. That's you'll be able to change it, and that's what we're talking about. This stuff, you know.
Yeah, and that's quality of a good leader, is because you recognize that you're challenged in that area.
Yes.
So you're doing everything you can to shift that for yourself. Right. Yeah, bad leaders won't do that.
Right.
They won't. They will not do that. But I think one of the things that are important too is also lack of empathy. And you know, you guys hear me use this term all the time: emotional intelligence. You know, you can have a high IQ, which is intelligent quotient. I think that's how you pronounce it. But if you don't have EI, which is emotional intelligence, and lack the ability to understand or connect to people emotionally, then you're a bad leader. Sorry, but you're a bad leader. Yes. There has to be some type of sensitivity in your way of leading. It's really vital. It's really important, not just in your work world, but also in your community as well as in your family life. Yeah. You know, because if dad isn't, you know, the covering for that home or for that family, and doesn't lead the family, kids will run amok. There's something really powerful about a man's authority, in a sense, and I'm not talking about a bad authority, but I'm just talking about in a way that you lead your family. So if you're a great leader at work, you're a great leader in your community, then I think all other things will fall into alignment. But if you're a bad leader, I mean, you're someone who creates possibly a toxic work environment, which is very unhealthy. Your employees feel undervalued, they feel unappreciated and unsupported. So, and ultimately that leads to a really bad decline in morale and performance. You only get the best from people when you treat them the best.
Yeah.
But as a bad leader, if you're doing things that, maybe you're running things in a sense of, I'm not just a bad leader, because there are bad leaders, but then there's also ineffective leaders.
Yeah.
Have you heard that term before?
Yes.
Yeah.
A big example of the difference to me is that we all know an ineffective leader, right? An ineffective leader to me would be a person that is very popular, that everybody wants to be around, right? That means you have just a natural leadership skill about you that you might not even know, right? So an interactive one wouldn't groom, or well, not groom, but he wouldn't.
I don't think an ineffective leader. I think he wouldn't be able. He would be the nice guy that brings you Starbucks on a Monday morning and, be really chummy with you and all that, but can't lead a project.
Yeah,
so he's very ineffective.
Yeah, ineffective in that way. But what I'm saying too is that he won't. Like, so if you have those qualities naturally, you don't necessarily go further than that, right? Because there's things that you can do. Like, remember last podcast, you said there's things that you can do to create yourself into a leader. Yes. Right?
Yeah.
And
you can develop those skills. Yeah.
Right. So he's not going to do nothing to develop those skills in that aspect, but he may be a natural leader as, being charismatic, and people want to be around him, but he doesn't go no further than that, right?
Right.
And so that would be an ineffective leader. And a bad leader is just a bad leader. We all know what bad means, you know what I'm saying? But those are two differences right there that we want to make sure that you understand,
Because both struggle, right?
Yes.
So they both struggle to achieve results, positive results. But I think they differ in the causes and impacts. So bad leaders have negative traits such as toxic behavior, lack of empathy, and poor decision making, which can harm an organization, as we've talked about many times. Where an effective leader, I think they possess good intentions, but like you said, they absolutely lack the necessary skills.
Yeah.
And they don't have a vision, and they don't communicate very, well at all to lead effectively.
Yeah.
And while bad leaders create detrimental environment, ineffective leaders often struggle to inspire and guide their teams toward success. And that's like what we were talking about, where I'm showing up as your leader, trying to lead you. Here's a Starbucks, but there's no type of effect that I'm giving you to grow or to see your worth or to show you that I value you. We're just all chummy all day long, but nothing's getting done.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about some red flags too.
Yeah.
That we want to share with you. I mean, how can someone identify early warning signs of bad leadership?
Lack of transparency is one. Bad leaders may withhold important information, which is a bad idea.
Which is a really bad
idea, right? So that's really big. Micromanagement. I fall victim of micromanagement. I was passed on to me from my mother.
Hi, Mom.
So actually my dad was the opposite of that.
Was he?
He was real good at having people and rallying people and getting them to do things and stuff like that. He was really good. But I was the person like my mom where I had to do it. You know, and nobody could do it as good as me. And
I'm like that. I kind of tend to. I mean, I've literally had some team members say to me, Darnell, we got it. Stop. And I've literally had them, come in the office and say, hey, you're really micromanaging this project, and everyone's annoyed. I had that one person that, would step up and tell me those things. And I had to look at that for myself.
Yeah, so it's good to recognize it. That's so you'll be able to change it.
Yeah.
Because even I was sharing with you earlier, the E-Myth talks about that. the micromanaging.
Yeah.
And that's the downfall of most businesses in the beginning, because you're the person that, usually you have to start off and you have to do all the different things.
Yeah.
But then it's hard to let go because you feel like you only know how to do that. And that's usually the downfall of a business, because you can't.
Well, you're not trusting your employees.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of times people don't feel value if they don't feel trusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll run yourself into the ground, the business into the ground. So it's good to recognize it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think blame shifting too. I have a lot of experience with old bosses where, they never wanted to really take responsibility of their own mistakes. And I think bad leaders really like to shift blame, instead of owning it. I've even been in some scenarios where they've literally blamed people who weren't even at fault at all, but again, that's kind of something that is attached to ego. So if you're a bad leader out there blaming people and not taking responsibility for your faults or the things maybe that you've caused, in your work world, family, or community where there breakdowns have occurred, just own it. I think once you can admit your mistakes, I think people respect you. Plus, that develops integrity too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say to you, Jay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then you're going to say, well, Auntie, you didn't do it the day and time you said. So if I'm emotionally intelligent, I can say to you, you know what, you're right, son, but I promise you next time that won't happen again. And then live that truth. Where I think a lot of bosses and people, they just like to blame shift and take that light off them. And it goes back to, like you were talking about earlier, about poor communication. You know? But one of the biggest things too is like lack of empathy.
Yeah.
I think bad leaders, if you don't have compassion, I think if you don't have just a regard for the people that work around you, in a sense, and have just sometimes not just empathy, but just sympathize with current situations in people's lives.
Yeah.
In the family realm, it's almost like you're raising your kids and they fall and skin their knee. And like, boy, get up. You all right. Just dust it off. Keep going. Acknowledge. Have that empathy to acknowledge, because if we talk about, certain, and we can go on deep on this one, but it's like if we want to create a new mindset, not only for our children, but the people that we surround ourselves to. So just be compassionate and empathize with individuals. Not so much to where you kind of pet their victimization.
I was going to say, where's the line at with that?
No, that's not what I'm saying. You don't want to pet their victimization, but you want them to look at things a little bit differently than you had the opportunity to look. I think it was someone who shared with me like about the way they're raising their son versus how they were raised, because there was a lot of dysfunction in that. But also on your work team, you want to make sure that you empathize when someone's having a rough day. You acknowledge it. Is there anything I can do to support you? Is there anything I can do to help? I notice you've been a little quiet. Check in with your team. Check in with the people that you work around, especially if they're exhibiting behavior that's just not really who they are.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
So, and then favoritism. Yeah. I've been part of organizations where, they favor certain people over, they'll give you the best projects, but won't, give that other person a chance, in a sense.
Right.
So I think that's kind of a bad leadership quality as well.
And consistency, for sure. Not keeping the same energy in everything that you do. Like you can be. I think when you're like high level, intense one day and then the next day you're not, and if you're not consistent with whatever you're doing, I think that that can throw people for a doozy, to where they don't know what to expect that day.
Yeah, or when you like come along and say, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then a few days later, well, how come that's not happening? That's it, that's the inconsistency too.
And along with that too, you can always judge a leader by the fruit that they bear.
Yeah,
right.
That's good.
The fruit that they bear. I live by that term, just in life in general, with anybody that I meet. You know, if they're talking one thing, if you meet somebody, you know, I came from the music world before. And so if a person's like, hey, I make music. Okay, cool. If I don't see music equipment around their life, you
or
know.
Or an 8-track player in the back.
Nothing, like no microphones, no anything.
But you're making music.
But they make music, and I'm like, so it makes me scratch my head like, well, I don't see that around them, you know.
Yeah, there's no fruition. Nothing.
So you should question that. Whatever they're saying, question it. You know, look around, look at who they are, what they're saying that they do, and if you don't see that around them, that's a red flag. Not saying it ain't true, but it's just a red flag. Be conscious, you know.
Yeah, and a bad leader won't let you check in and say, hey, what's happening with X, Y, and Z? Why? How come we're not? You know, good leaders will want to hear that feedback from you. And, you know, some leaders will even allow you, or I shouldn't say the word allow, but will find it beautiful that you do remind them of things and call them on stuff in a sense.
Yeah. Well, another thing I want to say, too, is another good way to spot bad leadership is through their circle, right? So if somebody's displaying a lot of wealth and everything, so look at their inner circle.
Yeah.
Whatever their inner circle is will tell you the truth of what the situation is.
Right.
So if one person is doing great, driving amazing cars and you have a big house, everything like that, but his partners don't, something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Something's wrong.
That's a big red flag right
That's
there.
a huge red flag, you know, because if somebody's winning, the whole team should be winning.
Exactly.
You know, and I just find that, you know, very telling. And it's something that you can just literally see in a situation, you know.
And that kind of leads into like the ripple effect of leadership, bad leadership too, is because the toll it takes on those people in your circle that are not living that great life that maybe you promised them or something like that, or you know what I mean? It's like when people look at, let's say, the CEO or the leader of that company, and they see the fruition, and then you look down at maybe the vice president or the other people underneath that CEO, and there's no, like you said, there's just no proof of the prosperity, I guess, is the word I want to use. So, yeah, that is a big super red flag.
There's great leaders I've seen, and like my dad worked for a great leader, and everybody around him was prosperous. He made it that way. Yeah. You know what I mean? He made it that way. So I seen through my parents bad leadership and great leadership. That was great leadership, you know. Yeah. And a great leader won't play. I always say they won't play the daddy role. Won't make you play the daddy role, right? Oh, come ask daddy if you want money, or go. No, it's like let that man be his own man. Let that person be his own person. You know what I mean? You don't have to be the ends of all means. You know what I mean? Like just let them be their own person. Let them be able to survive and do their own thing.
Yeah, and it really affects productivity too in an organization. There's also a psychological and emotional effect on people that have to live like that in business. You know, where they have to ask permission for this or request things. You know, that it's just super ineffective. But we just wanted to kind of give you the types of bad leaders. So I know we mentioned the micromanager, right? Yeah. But what about the absentee leader? I mean, that's someone who just isn't around to even, you know, help you with guidance or help you with direction or anything like that. And I think that goes back to a little bit of ineffective leading. It's like, you know, I'll give you a Starbucks on a Monday morning, but you're not going to see me the rest of the day. Right. You know what I mean? But the toxic leader, I mean, I think I have had a lot of experience in that, and I'm sure in your music world you've had a lot of experience with that, people not following through. Oh, yeah. That's part of the game, yeah. So what do you mean, like, part of the game?
It's different in the corporate world because you have somebody to hold accountable because there's levels to it, you know. But in the entrepreneur world, I learned not to depend on somebody, right?
Yeah.
You hold them accountable for what they say, but you only have two options, and that's like say like you're like, Jay, I'm gonna give you this because I don't use it, and this and that, and then we're having a great time. You're talking it up, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Following week, it doesn't happen. I call you, hey, what's up with that? You said you was gonna do, and then no answer or anything, right? So most people get butt hurt, and then they'll cave in on that, especially if it's something that is of significance. But you have to learn that there's no reason for you to have to do it. You don't owe me anything. When you're in business and you're an entrepreneur, you got to handle your own business.
So it's like false promises.
False promises, but you can't depend on that at all as an entrepreneur.
Right.
In the workforce, yes, you can, because then you can take it up a notch. Like, hey, this person said this, and you can there's write-ups, there's all kind of things to answer from it.
Yeah.
What do you do to a person that doesn't work for you, or you don't work for him?
Yeah.
How do you hold them accountable? The only way you can hold them accountable is by not doing more business with them, or cutting them off from access to you.
Yeah, but in the corporate world, you're just disappointed.
Yeah, you're just
in a sense, unless they, go against handbook policy or something like that.
Well, yeah, I think actions can be taken in the corporate world.
Yeah, well, that brings up a memory. I was promised that I was going to get some type of certification, and then later, there were other people on the team that got it, and I was like, okay, cool. I was a little taken back by it, but I'm like, promised yours and hers and theirs that you guys will get it. We never got it, and then when you questioned it, it was, well, the budget, and I understand, of course, in the corporate world, the budget is an issue, but, I just, for me, it was a disappointment because it was something I was really looking forward to, because it was really going to add to my development.
Right.
So don't make promises you can't keep.
Yeah.
Or don't make promises that just, feed your ego.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's also the narcissistic leader, the self-centered and ego-driven guy.
Yeah.
I've worked with a few of those my darn self. And I'm sure in music, that's probably, or producing, I'm sure you've run into a lot of egos.
Yeah. Those were the connects.
What do you mean the connects?
They were the guys that were, probably close to somebody that was famous or something to that effect. But then they had an ego because that's their connection. Everything had to run to them. And they might not necessarily be fit for the job. And you may, really just want to help things go, but their ego gets in the way, or they want to put only their homeboys on, and their homeboys may not know exactly how things work,
right?
And there's no teamwork, basically.
Well, that's going back to like favoritism too in the corporate world, because it's like, well, her and I are really super close, and she led this project, so I'm gonna trust her with this project, this new project, and I'm not gonna give anybody else on the team a chance to shine, in a sense. And I think when you do that, you literally cripple people, and that's just bad leadership, But, it's Jeff Burkhart. He's really famous for a quote that he says, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. And I think that says it all.
And some good things for for people to understand how this affects you on an everyday
level
basis. We mentioned a little bit earlier, but want to reiterate some of the things, because bad leadership can stop the growth of whatever you're doing. Remember, we're talking to the entrepreneur, the entrepreneur, the community leaders, everything. It can stop your growth in whatever you're doing. If you have if you're practicing bad leadership, so you can take these things and kind of check yourself with it, or if you're up under bad leadership, these are some things that you can recognize, right?
Exactly.
And then another thing is that this can carry on to your personal life. It can affect you with your kids, with your relationship. And these are just things that you can kind of do a little checklist with yourself and implement these things into your everyday life, right?
Yeah, especially in your family, because if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Yeah, facts.
Right?
Yeah, in my case, if my 2-year, 3-year-old ain't happy. Don't play.
Shout out to Jayla. she's cute.
Right.
She is.
No, we love him for
But
sure.
what? Yeah, for sure. So, one of the experiences that I had in coaching somebody, they were in a new role as a leader and a director, and they went into a very, very toxic work environment. And sometimes, and it was a new role for them. They were a supervisor, but they jumped from a supervisor straight to a director. And, there was this toxic behavior in their work world, and it was a struggle. And they had to really take some time out to almost revamp the whole department. The old supervisor, the old director wasn't holding people accountable for anything. So the employees were just allowed to run amok, and so here comes this new director that had a little bit more training. And although it was tough, I tell you, it took some time. She went through a few seasons of challenges, but not only getting rid of those toxic employees, with write-ups and following through with things like that, but also developing her team, asking them, hey, I noticed, we have this issue. What would you guys say if we did a team building and try to alleviate or try to look at where our strengths and weaknesses are in our department so we can further develop and grow? And once she really took that on for herself, it almost weeded out the bad folks, in a sense. But a bad leader wouldn't even look at that. They would just say, "Oh, show up, do your job, leave," kind of thing. And then that's, I think, where turnover could hurt, keeping employees. But if you allow your employees or your associates in the organization to rule over you, in a sense, it's just creating a harsher, toxic way of being, and that is not cool.
And I love the way you communicate things in the HR professional way. The way you just turn that's amazing, man. Entrepreneurs and business people that want to start their business, pay attention. She dropping game right there.
I am. I'm sharing the secrets.
Because you said that in the most professional
Cute.
way. That was amazing.
Yeah. I think it's important to, also going back to what we were talking about, but rebuilding that trust after bad leadership. I remember her sharing with me that some of the people on her team would literally tell her, well, we didn't behave like this with them because they were bad leaders. We couldn't trust them. And these are bad leaders that are literally sitting in meetings gossiping about other employees, So there's a certain integrity and respect that I think come with when you're a good leader versus a bad leader, you know. And sometimes that follows you. Especially in a small community like Tulare and Visalia, everybody kind of knows everybody. But, if you're in the health organization, they whisper to the other health organization. If you're a nurse here, the nurses talk, you know what I mean? So you just have to really be careful and make sure that if you're a manager, director, or supervisor, that you're cultivating your emotional intelligence so you can lead properly.
Yeah.
It's really vital. It's really, really super important.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that being said, thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of leadership. Jay, did you have anything you wanted to kind of share with us?
No, I just want you to feel empowered.
Yeah, definitely.
Ready to take on the week,
Yep, for sure. And if you're facing challenges in your world, really look at, like Jay was talking about earlier, really look at ways that you can cultivate internally for yourself those qualities that would cause you to be not only in the community as a great leader, but also in your work world and in your family, because it's really important. Allow people to look up to you and just find ways to inspire yourself and cause yourself to be better than you know yourself to be. But that's what What's the Biz 559 is up to. We really hope that you find inspiration here.
Yes, definitely. That's it then?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, just a real short disclaimer. The information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only, so please consult with experts and relative professionals regarding your specific situation. But we've got some cool things coming up for What's the Biz 559, Nuclear Vision.
Yes.
Jay, let's talk a little bit about our workshops and our book clubs and mixers that are coming up.
Yeah, we're looking to start a book club, of course, and some workshops to better yourself.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to help you all the way around how to be a better person, reliable person, to how to start your business. And we also got some things going on in media too, where we'll be doing some workshops with media aside from that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Got some fun stuff for you.
Yeah.
And
so stay tuned, because
stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll start posting the information and
For sure.
Yeah.
But thank you for tuning in. Like I said, recap leadership. Go ahead and take a look at last Monday's and also the Monday before that if you haven't had a chance. And again, we're here to inspire and empower. So thank you for joining us, and happy Monday. Jay, take us away.
peace.